Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Former President Ronald Reagan said these words, and how true they are. Quote, "If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under." How true. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Wednesday. Good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. Be safe out there. And this is Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch. And good morning with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Right now, without any hesitation, we go to the phone line for our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
And good morning. It looks like you're the man, so go ahead.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, sir. And right now it's time for the weather, brought to you by K&R Rental. Hello, Roger. Good morning. Roger in, Roger out. There you go. 256 South, 600 west of Hebron. Great staff over there. And the number to call, 678-3122. You know, they've got all the equipment, all the tools, and they can deliver and pick up the tools after you're finished right at your business site. That's right. All the garden tools, they got everything. So stop over and talk to the people with experience since 1979. K&R Rental. Here's the weather.
If you have upper respiratory issues, you might want to limit your outdoor time, as we do have widespread smoke in our area and a air quality alert. Here's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. Yes, it is going to be very, very smoky, as there's 57 different wildfires burning in our region between Idaho, Washington, and Montana. So that is where all of the smoke is coming from. Other than that, going to be a little bit on the breezy side for today. Sunny skies, if we could actually see beyond that smoke. High of 93, tonight low of 58. Looks like the smoke is going to be sticking with us as we get through the weekend as well. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 93, overnight low of 60. Looks like smoky and sunny for Friday, high of 89. Looks like 86 for Saturday and 86 for Sunday. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
And I know what she's talking of, because I was born with asthma. A lot of people have asthma, and kind of grew out of it a little bit. And now with the smoke and everything, oh my goodness, it is not good. So be careful out there. Weather brought to you by K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Hebron. Number to call, 678-3122. You be sure and stop over and see them today. Open Monday through Saturdays. K&R Rental. Yeah, it's nasty out there. I don't think, I kind of gauge by how far I can see across the back 220 out here. Oh, my goodness, it's really socking in this morning, so be careful, please. And if you don't have to be outside, don't be. Don't forget our friends at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Went down there yesterday and dropped off a huge, I was almost out of clothes, huge, great big bag of Wranglers and shirts and everything. I'm telling you what, they can handle it, and they'll come back looking brand spanking new. By the way, too, I had a gentleman call the other day. And he said, is that really true what you said about Daryl's Cleaners? They can do the washing? I said, yeah, they've got a deal. They will wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes. So be sure and stop in and see them today at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Daryl's Cleaners, serving you. Deanne came in before the program started this morning and let me know that this is National Read a Book Day. And I thought about that for a few minutes, and you really have to be numb to the situations that are going on around us and the world. You've got to be somewhat aware as to how toxic right now things are in the world with North Korea and, of course, all the other problems locally and across the nation with Antifa and all the chaos and DACA now programs, being canceled, which I am in favor of. But all of this, I suggest if this is National Read a Book Day, the book that you read is the Bible. I suggest that heartily. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, too, that Ramsey Heating and Electric, I got to tell you, for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Now, we are going to be over there next Thursday for our biggest remote that we do during the year, and that's, of course, the Patriots Day, and hats off to farmers at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Somebody asked me how many years we've been doing this, and I believe this will be the 15th year. I might be wrong on that, but I think I'm pretty close. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Oberlin Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. They open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday. And again, next Thursday the 14th, we'll be over there for the Hats Off to Farmers and Patriots Week. And it's going to be a great remote at Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley. George, Mass has a great event going on. And that is the Saturday, second annual Patriotic Car Show and Swap Meet on the historic Rupert Square. And standing for the red, white, and blue. It's going to be from 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, sponsored by the City of Rupert, Combat Vets Association, Rupert Veterans Memorial, and they're going to have classic cars, race cars, and a community flag retirement. Very solemn, very nice. Really something you don't want to miss, along with entertainment and food and everything else at the second annual Patriotic Car Show and Swap Meet this coming Saturday. Now, caller, good morning. How are you?
I am just peachy.
Good. What can I do for you?
And are you doing better?
I'm not this morning because the old smoke has really got me. And if I turn the microphone off occasionally, which you can hear, it's because I'm choking over here. Go ahead quickly. What have you got for us this morning, Keith?
Okay, what right does the president have to go against the Constitution?
Whoa.
Because that's exactly what Obama did.
Yeah, I know that. I was afraid you were going to say Trump, and I was about ready to jump right in the middle of your campfire.
Oh, sure, he's my man.
Well, I'll tell you, President Obama superseded a lot of things when he was in office and took on a dictatorial position, and he did with DACA. And now, I'm just so upset at the liberal left, and they're such a bunch of loons. Now, Donald Trump, our current president, is revoking the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, if you will, and the left is calling him nothing more than a white supremacist, and they're saying that he's aiding and abetting white supremacy in this country. No, he's turning it back over to the Congress to rectify a problem that Obama started. He started, no one else, and it was illegal.
I think it's wonderful that he put the shoe on the other foot. Let Congress take the heat. but they're still going to hate him.
Well,
No matter what he does.
Keith, I was watching.
What Obama did is so shameful.
Yeah.
And he's going to hurt a lot of the Hispanic people who fell into his trap, and now they can't get out.
Well, here's the deal with Obama. I mean, for some reason, no matter what he steps in and spreads, I don't know what happened to Keith, but I think he left. Whatever he steps in or spreads across the carpet in anybody's home, he's going to come out smelling like a rose, which is very unfortunate. The liberal media absolutely paints him as the knight in shining armor. And what Donald Trump is doing right now absolutely is, according to the Constitution, according to the way things are set up, turning it back to Congress and telling Congress, fix this. This is a mess that never should have been handled by the president in the first place. Fix it, and fix it now. I am glad that we're going to be seeing this. I am glad the pressure's on Congress. I want to see these guys do something. I'm sure you feel the same way. Keith, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden you went to hang-up land, so I apologize. But anyhow, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Some of the absolute twits on CNN and MSNBC and other stations, I surfed a little bit yesterday. I mean, they were screaming at the top of their lungs, "Oh, Trump proves that he's a racist. Trump proves that he's a white supremacist." No, he didn't prove that. Never stood up for it. Nothing. All that he did was say the president should not and has not the power to really do one thing or the other with DACA. That is Congress's responsibility. Obama stepped out of bounds. Zollinger Quarter Horse production sale. Yesterday we were very fortunate to have Jerry on the phone with us. And I can tell you personally that I know these horses. I know that they have great minds. I know that they are really great conformation horses. I mean, these horses are well built, and they've got an abundance of color, and they're out of some of the greatest sires and dams in the quarter horse industry. This sale is going to be September 9th, this coming Saturday. Preview at 10 a.m., sale at 11 up at the ranch at 1994 South, 100 east of Oakley, and I'm telling you, you don't want to miss it. Get on up there. Really treat yourself. If you like good horses and you like a good horse sale, this is one of the best in the entire Northwest. Zollinger Quarter Horse production sale coming up, 29th annual, this Saturday up in Oakley. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Honestly, I don't know what happened to Keith. Wheels, what happened? How come the line went dead? Do you have any idea?
I would just assume that his cell phone or the phone that he was using had died.
Oh, it went to that great croaking Verizon in the sky. I see. Okay.
Yes.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Hey, don't forget Denny's Restaurant. Oh, my goodness sakes. America's Diner. 611 North Oberlin and Burley, and the other location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Woo! I mean, woo! I love that food. They've got great food. They've got super great breakfast. I love breakfast. It's if you want to invite Deanna and I to any meal, invite us to breakfast. I'm going to be there. And they've got the best. And then, of course, all the great lunch menu items and dinner. And they've got a brand new line of burgers. Oh, I mean, it just goes on. And super good people serving you, too. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant. It is America's Diner and the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch at 611 North Oberlin and Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Delicious. Let's see, what else do you want to talk about? DACA, we'll talk about it. He suspended the Dreamer Act yesterday. And as I said a moment ago, it was illegally implemented by Obama. Again, I want to highlight those words, illegally implemented by Obama. And now Trump is putting DACA where it should be back, as I said a moment ago, into the hands of Congress. But I tell you what, I was listening to this one particular person, excuse me, on CNN yesterday, and waving his arms and saying it's all part of a white supremacy plot. Oh, my goodness, these people are stupid. And you know, there's something else, and I've asked you this question before, but please, I want your calls, and I appreciate your opinion. Whether you agree with me or not, for heaven's sakes, have the fortitude to give me a call and express your opinion. These loony left liberals are part of a growing movement that really should scare you and I, the No Borders crowd. Yeah, the No Borders crowd. Ask yourself, while you're driving to work right now or going down the interstate or you're sitting at your office desk or whatever, ask yourself, if we, the United States, or any country in the world, didn't have borders and people could go anywhere, they could reside anywhere, and then pick up and leave and go here, there, and everywhere, how do you, as a so-called country, how do you support that country? How do you secure that country? How do you provide money for the country to grow and prosper? It's total chaos. These open borders people have the IQ, combined IQ, of a box of sand. And when you think about absolutely no borders, no taxpayer, why should you pay taxes? I don't care if you've lived here 65, 75, or 30 years. If you've got no borders and people can come in and reside and then take part in all the benefits and take part of our welfare system, like many are now, I'm to the point, why should we pay taxes? We're giving a free ride to these people. Why shouldn't we get a free ride? Yeah, well, why not? How can you run a country with no borders, no security? You can't. And that's what these loons want. No borders, total chaos. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was begging yesterday. I really was. Boy, my throat was shot. And from that cold I had for about 5 or 6 days, and today not much better with all the smoke. I mean, my goodness, and you'll hear a little commercial on television, which is true. You'll hear the hazards of smoking. Don't pick up that cigarette. Well, right now we're probably sucking down more smoke just sitting here with an open window in the studio than you could from a year's worth of cigarettes. Oh, my goodness. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. They can and they will help you get back to being you. You know, I go back to when I had my surgeries with my knee and my hip, and, man, I'll tell you what, I was really kind of concerned about what the future would bode as far as trying to get back into a lifestyle that I'm accustomed to. Well, I'll tell you what, I went over there to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehab and all the exercises and, of course, all the miles and miles and miles that I walked in that hydrotherapy pool. Ho, 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 yeah, I credit them with my comeback. Absolutely. They've got great people, great physical therapists. They know. 678-1191, the number to call. 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. You call those great folks today, okay? And while I have just a moment waiting for your calls this morning, man, I don't know. It must be that time of the year where people are just preparing for the fall and the winter. Ooh, I hate saying that word. And give me a jingle. I'd love to hear from you. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. Number to call. Write this down on your refrigerator or a pad of paper that you won't lose, etc. 436-3200. That's the number. They make every effort to make Autumn Haven the best place. And they invite you and your family to stop by and visit. They invite you to take a look at all the facilities. They invite you to have your loved one that might be needing that little extra care to stop by and check out the only assisted living facility located in Rupert. Absolutely nice people providing more one-on-one care. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 436-3200 in Rupert. Small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Caller, good morning. How are you?
I'm throwing you a lifeline, buddy.
Well, you know what? I'm kind of teed off at you, Buckwheat. Where have you been the last couple of days? I always depend on your call at about this time, and you have been AWOL.
I have been. Monday, I was here, but you weren't.
Well, that's all right.
Okay, and then, so we're even. Yesterday, I was busy. I was a pallbearer at a funeral.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really am.
Yeah.
You know what? I got to tell you that when we have these days with the designated holiday on Monday, I don't know about you, but I know that yesterday at least 10 times I made a faux pas and put it down that, okay, I'd call somebody and I'll say, okay, I'll call you tomorrow, meaning like on Tuesday, but it wasn't because it's today Wednesday, and then it messes up the whole week.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. But I find it amazing how the left scream and holler and use every name in their arsenal of racisms and all the isms that they have when somebody tries to follow rule of law.
Yeah. I'm chuckling because I'm like you. I sat there, Doug, and I know you really are newsworthy. When it comes to watching and studying it, you know what's going on. I sat there last night, and I started to chuckle at the insanity and the, quite frankly, bottom line dumbness of these people. The president is following the Constitution, the rule of law on how things should go in a step-by-step fashion, and still he's called a racist and a bigot and, of course, a white supremacist.
Well, that just shows when these leftists went to school, they didn't take the government classes to learn how the government works, that there's 3 separate branches, and they all 3, one can't rule over the other, they have to rule together. They skipped out on those. They were taking the class on protest and how to resist.
Yeah.
They need to learn how the Constitution works and how it set up the government, and then if they don't like the law, change it. And I love what Trump done. Dumped it in Congress's lap and said, if you want the law, pass one.
You know, and right there, I've got to interrupt you because you've hit the nail right on the head. There is the focal point of the whole thing. I am glad, and I don't care if Mike Crapel could hear me right now, Rish, I don't care who can hear me. I am glad that he dumped it in the hands of the people that were paying to settle problems. It's about time they had the pressure put on them. I am sick and tired of these loons that we call congressmen and senators walking away from problems and just absolutely going for a cup of coffee.
Exactly. And what I'd like somebody to explain to me how they can just come off of a 1-month vacation, come back to work, and only have 11 days of work in this month?
It's called privilege, my friend.
Well, I think their salary, you get paid so much a day while you're in session. You're not in session, you're not getting any money.
There you go.
Period.
Yeah.
Explanation point.
Well, okay, stop. You're a private businessman, right? And you own your own business. And you do very well at it. But you are really a lot like me. If you don't show up for work, you ain't going to make a whole bunch of money. And that's exactly how I am. If I decide to leave this program for a day or two, I have to pay everybody to come in and run the program. And so really it's not a quote-unquote paid vacation. And I am sick. I'm just like you. I'm so fed up with the amenities that they get that the rest of us have to pay through the nose for.
Exactly. They should not have a salary. They should have a daily wage. When they're in session, they get a wage.
Yeah.
When they're not in session, they don't get anything. And also should be on production, too. If they can't produce, I'm sorry.
No, wait a minute. You're being way too harsh, because looking at Congress today, whether it's the House or the Senate, if you said something like you just said, paid on what they do, Doug, you can't do that because you create a whole bunch of homeless people.
Well, we would get some people in there that would do something.
I hope so.
The only what I'm seeing in Congress and the Senate right now, and this is my opinion, everybody's entitled to theirs, but all I see in there is people want to get in the big boys club so they can rake in the money from special interests and leave millionaires on $150,000 a year salary.
Yeah. You know what?
I've yet to figure out how that's happened unless you are a crook and you are selling the people that put you there and paying your wages down the creek so you can benefit yourself.
Look at Democratic Senator Bob Menendez. Look at this guy. You've heard about what he's going to trial this week, and he's up on 12 counts of corruption, including Medicare fraud. He's on money laundering. He's all kinds of a bad dude, and Bob Menendez is just a perfect example of what you're talking about.
Exactly, and he's not alone. He just got caught.
Yeah.
He's not alone. I mean, there's a lot of that going on that should be caught. If we had a justice system and an FBI that was equal justice under the law, half of Congress and the Senate wouldn't be there because they'd be on trial or in prison.
Or they'd be out on the street, like I mentioned a moment ago, increasing the number of homelessness in America. I got to run, buddy. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, God bless, and everybody, let's take care of our senior centers.
Amen. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate you. God bless you. Hey, don't forget Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Hello, Scott. I mean, he's standing out there right now with a shovel and a digging away and probably putting in a new sprinkler system or revamping an old one. Or they're taking care of all the trees. By the way, that's something really I want you to think about. You know, all through the summer, etc., with the trees and the limbs and everything, be ready and be safe this winter when the wind's howling about 35, 40 miles an hour and you got old tree limbs and everything whacked right through your window. Make sure that you get all the tree trimming taken care of. You give them a call today, and they'll be there to serve you. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service in Paul. The number to call, 431-8733. Hey, Doug Martin, if you're still listening on the radio, Deanne says thanks for the corn and the zucchini. Little private message there. And caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again.
Yes, sir.
My phone died.
Oh, really? Well, plug the doggone thing in.
Well, we're going to have services for it this afternoon. But anyway.
Hey, hold on a second. You know what? Hey, Keith.
I have a question for you.
All right. Go ahead.
Because it depends. My marriage depends on it.
Well, wait a minute, Cottam. Don't go hanging that around my neck. Don't say that your marriage depends on my answering a question. That puts too much pressure on me.
Well, it depends on you answering the right question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here's the question. You know, we were talking about the borders and that sort of thing, and I told my wife, I said, look at Germany, you know, because they didn't have secure borders. People just came and went and did what they wanted to. I said, in fact, I don't think hardly any of Europe has borders. And she said, oh, yes, they do. Well, do you know of any country over there that has a border where they, you know, like a wall or a fence?
Oh, absolutely. There are numerous countries, absolutely numerous countries that are defending their borders right now. And I'll tell you one country that I'm really worried about, more so than any other right now. And don't laugh at this. I am very worried about Poland. With all the strife and all the questions about whether we're going to be in war or not with North Korea, look out for the movements of Russian troops against the borders of Poland. So there's another classic example of watch out what the right hand is doing, but also keep your eye on the left hand, because Russia is going to use a lot of what's going on right now with North Korea. They're going to use it to maybe be deceptive and take over land in Europe.
Yeah, but what I was getting at, Zeb, is do they have a wall? Do they have a fence or anything?
In many cases, yes. In many cases, yes. In many cases, yes.
But I may be wrong.
No, in many cases they do. And I'll tell you, just think about it, though, Keith. Think about a open border. Think about no border restraints whatsoever. Absolutely nothing on our south and our north border, Canada or Mexico. And think about the people just allowed to come in here, do as they may, take up residence, whatever they want. How in the world are you going to run a country when you have people coming in helter-skelter at will, and those of us that are taxpayers, that have been taxpayers in this nation since birth, basically with our families, our grandparents, etc., how are you going to run a country when nobody is going to be stationary, if you will, living in a country? What is the incentive to support a country? You're going to have total chaos.
Absolutely, and a good example of that is Cuba. When all them people come over in these rickety boats and everything to America, they land here and they land there, and I bet you there's still a lot of them that are undocumented.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Keith, I got to run. I hope your marriage stays together for at least another day. Have a wonderful day.
No, I shouldn't even said that, because we have a wonderful marriage, just like you and Deanna.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, look out for that frying pan, because it's looming over your head. Talk to you later.
Well, you sure helped me a lot, old buddy.
Okay, see you later. You know, one thing I forgot a minute ago, and I want to correct something, is when I was doing the Scott Gano landscaping and sprinkler service ad, I don't think I gave you the telephone number. If I didn't, Gano's going to come over here and probably put me in the hole with a sprinkler. It's 431-8733. Gano Landscaping, 431-8733. You call him today. Now I feel so much better. I did my job. Hey, by the way, too, I want to remind you about Berry Equipment and Rental. Sales, service, and parts. 3 locations, South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and, of course, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. I made the comment the other day, and you know it's true. I'm going to go down, and I got to get a Bobcat excavator, and I got to do a bunch of work here on my place before snow sets in. And some of my concerned listeners said, "Oh, no, don't let him have a Bobcat." Listen, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to go out and practice in their big sandbox out behind the business. The business might be in jeopardy, but I'm going to practice. Anyway, they've got all the Bobcat excavators, new and used, for sale or rent, all shapes and sizes. They've got all the equipment rentals and retail equipment sales. Yep, at Berry Equipment and Rental. Sales, service, and parts, Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You stop in and see them today. I'd appreciate a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got really some bad news. A lot of people I know have family members, and I have a lot of friends down in South Florida. And we're going to talk about another big, devastating hurricane headed their way, and I'm very concerned for those folks. Right now, I want to talk to you. Now, the reason I'm stuttering here for a minute is because I can't find that doggone paper. There it is. I want to remind you about Rogge Auctions. They're going to have a ripping good sale, the Vernon Olander Retirement Sale. It's going to be this Saturday, 10 a.m., located at 1553 East, 4150 North in Buell. Now, listen. They're going to have shop equipment. I understand he's got some amazing tools. Parts, trailers, pickup trucks, loader, heister. This is going to be a great sale. And as I said, it starts at 10 a.m. this coming Saturday. Go to the website, RoggeAuctions.com. I urge you to go to that website and see all the great tools. RoggeAuctions.com. Cade and Ron, Jed, the whole crew. Rogge Auctions. Big sale on Saturday over in Buell. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The meteorologists have said, and I've listened to a couple of them as late as just a couple minutes before I went on the program this morning, that in estimation of recorded history on mapping, tracking, and finding all about hurricanes, they say the biggest hurricane in history is due to maybe bang into the southern part of Florida on Sunday. And I hope not. I pray not. After what happened in Houston, with all the devastation, and now with all the cleanup and the massive undertaking of trying to get food and clothing and everything else on somewhat a normal keel, if you will, and all the FEMA money, everything else, I certainly hope and pray that this hurricane, Irma, does not hit Florida. It's bad enough it's already hit some other countries, and I think it's hitting Puerto Rico almost as we speak. And I just hope and pray that it doesn't hit Florida. And already there are plans to evacuate, and it's supposed to, if the storm goes in its current pattern and at its current pace, supposedly to hit Florida on Sunday, and I certainly hope it does not. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have a little note here for you to ponder, okay? I want you to think about this. It's kind of interesting, and I wonder how this happened. He says, tongue-in-cheek, in the city of Chicago, in the last election, it has been found that they had more votes cast than they had voters. I'll do it again. Why, to the tune of many, many thousand more. Are you telling me that maybe something illegal happened in the city of Chicago, and they had more votes cast than they had voters? Rahm Emanuel City, anti-Trump city. Did you hear what Emanuel said yesterday? He stood up in front of the TV cameras, and this little pimple said, Chicago is now a Trump-free zone. Oh, my goodness. And you listen to others that are really experts on sanctuary cities and the devastation and the absolute crime that's caused because of aiding and abetting sanctuary cities. Chicago is one of the most dangerous cities in the entire world. I mean, literally thousands and thousands and thousands of gunshot victims because there is nothing more than crime running rampant on the streets. And Emanuel is a mayor that should have been taken out of office, tarred and feathered, and thrown into Lake Michigan. That would have been a kind thing to do to him. And he's making the problem worse in Chicago. And now Chicago has turned into a sanctuary, Wild West, anything-goes city, led by a mayor that is basically stupid. And it's going to get a lot worse. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Well, I'm waiting for your call so we can visit. We'll have our little chat. I'm going to have the weather forecast on here, brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they're located right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Number to call, 312-0957. Now, Dr. Christine Pickup, I was over there last week, and she is, I'm telling you, every time I go over there, I learn something about sound and hearing. She is just absolutely sharp. She knows everything about sound and hearing, and if you have a problem hearing, or you're having a problem with diminished hearing and things, why don't you just please take my advice, call for a hearing screening today at 312-0957. I absolutely applaud her and her abilities at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
If you have upper respiratory issues, you might want to limit your outdoor time as we do have widespread smoke in our area and a air quality alert. Here's your weather for us at the ranch. Yes, it is going to be very, very smoky as there's 57 different wildfires burning in our region between Idaho, Washington, and Montana. So that is where all of the smoke is coming from. Other than that, going to be a little bit on the breezy side for today. Sunny skies if we could actually see beyond that smoke. High of 93 tonight, low of 58. Looks like the smoke is going to be sticking with us as we get through the weekend as well. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 93, overnight low of 60. Looks like smoky and sunny for Friday, high of 89. Looks like 86 for Saturday and 86 for Sunday. That is your weather for Zephyr Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. Brought to everybody by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup. I mean, they are the only locally owned and independent hearing healthcare practice in southern Idaho, and they can and will help you with your hearing problems. Call today, 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. All right, now I want to hear from you. I do. I want to have your call. Please give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, when I got on the air the other day and I said I was going to try to put together some charity work for our friends down in the Texas area, believe me, it's not gone by the wayside. We're trying to figure out the best way to do this, and also I know there's other groups, including one we're going to talk about tomorrow, Raft River Schools, and on a local basis that are contributing, but I want to make ours a little bit more unique and maybe find a certain niche that we can jump into with other people, like what is going on with Houston Texans defensive end J.J. Watt. You have to absolutely applaud this man and his efforts as a professional athlete. I understand from sources this morning that I talked to before I went on the air that his helping get funds for the Houston, Texas area, over $21 million. Now that it just blows my mind, and I compliment him. I don't care if he played for the Jets. I don't care if he played for the Giants or if he played for the Bears or the Packers or whomever. This guy really has done a great job being a humanitarian, and I salute J.J. Watt for what he's done. $21 million over that already been raised, and I say kudos to him. And as soon as I get all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, we're going to have this on the air. I was hoping to have it yesterday, and it's just because of my other schedules, leaving and having to go to various meetings, I didn't get it done yet, and I'm still working on it, so bear with me. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I saw something on TV that I really would like you to comment on, and it happened in New York State. And it was a banner that was hung up in a certain town, and the banner said, and it was scrawled with the black ink on a white piece of material, "More dead cops." More dead cops. And then there was the logo on this sign, if you will, of Antifa. You know, when our policemen, I don't care if they work for the Cassia County Sheriff's Department, I don't care if they work for Minidoka's Sheriff's Department, I don't care if they're city policemen in Twin Falls or wherever, when they get up in the morning and put on the uniform and go out and serve us and protect us, it's absolutely alarming to me that in the United States of America, we would have pond scum that would say and hang a sign that says, "More dead cops." Every one of us, as citizens of this country, every one of us that lives in a community or nearby to a community should be absolutely thankful and very respectful of the men that put on the uniform. And I also encompass firemen, police and firemen, serving us. And when you think that there is a group that seems like they're immune to getting any public criticism or scrutiny or possibly arrested for their violent ways and for their violent actions. Antifa and other groups on the left like them, including Black Lives Matter. It just boggles my mind how they keep out of a pair of handcuffs. And I hope that they find the person or persons that put that sign up back in New York State. More dead cops. And I hope they're arrested. I hope somehow they will have their day in court. I just really want to see these people put down and put into obscurity. What are your thoughts on that? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, the climate change nuts are back. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll tell you about that in a moment. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. You know, you were talking about the police officers and these people who think that they need to eliminate them. I'd like to see some of these people wear a chest camera 24/7 and see if their actions are always above reproach and always in the best interest of everybody around them. People are people are people are people. Police officers are no different. Granted, they supposedly have been trained to make better choices, but I tell you what, you get in a stressful situation, and some of the situations that those guys are put in, I wonder how much differently you would act.
You know, and what you said is 100% correct. I was listening to a show the other night about a police officer, the training, and the getting into a very serious situation, and the absolute split-second movements they have to make and take to possibly not only save the lives of others, but also themselves, and they can't make an error.
Exactly. And when the adrenaline gets running and when you have to make those decisions, are they always 100% the way you would put if you looked at it 20 minutes ago? No.
Yeah. You're 100% right. And for these idiots, I have no time, nor do I have any use for groups like Antifa or Black Lives Matter, etc., that would absolutely march down the street and denigrate the police, saying that they're like bacon, they need to be fried, and death to the police or more dead cops. How in the world could anybody respect that kind of a movement?
Well, and besides that, who do they want to have respond when they have an emergency of themselves?
Bingo.
If they don't want them normally or on an everyday basis, then when an emergency arises, who are they going to call?
Remember a couple of years ago when they had the protest down in Dallas, and a couple of cops were shot, and then a couple of days later there was another protest group, and it looked like it was going to get out of hand, and the protest group was going to get mauled. Who did they call but the police to protect them after all these problems?
Exactly. So you can't have both ways, and I think these people need to somehow wise up, and whoever's funding them, we need to find that person or those people and somehow educate them. I'm not sure quite how to go about doing that, but somehow they need to be educated or taught, hey, idiot, if you're going to continue to have this happen, you're going to lose, because someday you're going to need somebody to protect you.
Well, I'll just come right out and say it, caller, that quite frankly, I think we're at the end of the road. We're at a dead-end street right here in America, to where if we don't put these people down, and when I use the word down, I mean literally down in a horizontal position, this chaos and this anarchy has got to stop. Somebody, and many people, are going to die if we don't.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And I think that any of these videos that they have of people who are doing looting, who are doing the destruction in these riots, those video cameras need to be used in a court of law. Those people need to be arrested. If they are on welfare or public assistance, that will be terminated forever. They will never be able to be qualified again. Those people need to get a job. They need to repay back what they have destroyed. And those consequences need to be there for the choices those people are making that affect all the rest of us. and not us paying for it, but they pay for it.
Amen. Boy, that's a great way to go to the news. You and I are on the same page. Have a great day.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Excuse me for coughing. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving you. Great big fall tire sale. All the leaves are going to come down and a lot of the beautiful fall colors, and you want to drive over here and take pictures and over there. Make sure you've got great tires for your car, your pickup, your SUV. Oh, my goodness. Great big fall tire sale going on right now. Don't miss it at all 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Yep, and along with that, make sure that you're ready for the fall and winter driving with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, the whole deal, and also the best in service to you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. They are the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run to the news. Yeah, me run. That's an oxymoron. Anyway, the news is next from CBS. I'll be back in 6. See you later. Holy moly, it's smoky out there. Be careful. If you don't have to be outside, don't be. Because if you have any kind of lung problems, you're really anybody healthy, it's going to cause you problems. And I'm noticing it this morning. It's really, really smoky inside the studio because we've got the windows open. That was dumb to let in some fresh air, which is mostly filled with smoke. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, and thank you for tuning in. Our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, it's true. Always at your disposal. Call, find out about the route service, have your garbage picked up. It's gone. It's out of there once a week, and it's almost like clockwork. They really are efficient. Western Waste Services, loyal to the community and the people they serve. That I can attest to. They're great to work with. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. You call them today. And we're going to have our guest with us in just a moment. Stand by. But right now, I also want to remind you that when there's the passing of a loved one, it's absolutely imperative that you know and work with somebody that you trust and that will treat you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. I'm talking about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, and the manager, Joel Heward, family, and staff, always making sure they take care of you. And it's not just a 9-to-5 job. Believe me, they will be there anytime, all the time when you need them. And they can travel to the rural towns and churches to visit with you about all the arrangements. Please call them, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. Want to remind you that next Thursday, we will be over at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley for our once-a-year spectacular remote. We've done this for about 15, 16 years, and it's a hats off to farmers and a tribute to, of course, Patriots Week. And we're going to be over there next Thursday for the entirety of the program at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Don't miss that. Right now, a dear friend, and welcome him back to the program this morning, and say good morning to Dave Bego. Sir, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Zeb. How you doing?
To be honest with you, Dave, we are just absolutely saturated in a heavy, heavy smoke from the many fires, hundreds of fires that are going around the Northwest, Montana, Oregon, Washington. And right now, visibility is nearly nil here in southern Idaho and not good for people's health. It's a bad situation right here.
Well, actually, Zeb, I saw a little bit of that. I was vacationing out in Colorado last week and over the weekend, and saw some of that. And not as bad down in that area as up in your area, but I get it. It's ugly.
Oh, it is. Dave, there are so many things to talk about this morning, and I just had to pick and choose the most prominent. And I wanted you, coming back on the program this morning, to talk a little bit about Texas and the huge mess down there with Hurricane Harvey, and now also the potentiality of another hurricane, Irma, hitting Florida. So wrap that up for us, if you would.
Well, it's sad. Obviously, there's a lot of things. A lot of people have been injured and killed, and all the damage and everything. And but what I like about it, and what the press won't talk about, is that you've seen Americans from all walks of life coming together to help each other down there, and I think that's a good thing. Of course, then you've got the protest group that Antifa and the SEIU and others that are trying to make it look like this is a problem for America because we're a bad country and all that kind of stuff, and they're trying to use it to go after Trump and that. The left drives you crazy, and I got to tell you this about big labor is exploiting Harvey. The SEIU, through a group called Texas Organizing Project Education Fund, which is supposed to be, they're raising money to help people down there and that. But when you read the article and go into it deeply, it's heavily funded by the SEIU, and they're going to get a lot of the donations going to this to help them organize workers while they're down there trying to help people. So in other words, they're going to use this as an opportunity to force unionize people.
You're kidding me. I mean, I sit here and I'm just shaking my head. I know a lot of people down in that area. I have talked to many of my friends that absolutely need help. And to think that somebody would try to maximize the problem for their own personal gain or a union gain or whatever, I find that even worse than despicable.
It is. And, in their comment, the SEIU in this, going through this again, this is supposed to be a education fund and thing to help people with Hurricane Harvey that have been damaged. It's a relief fund. It says your donation is vital to ensuring that we, the SEIU, have the resources we need to organize people. This is crazy stuff, but this is what's going on in this country. You and I have talked about this before. And it's just like the Antifa group. I don't know if you realize, we didn't get a chance to talk about it because, I've been off the last couple of weeks because my dad passed away. But the Antifa group, they were had a listing in the Arizona paper to get paid protesters to go against Trump out there. And they were paying them $50 an hour, and they wanted them to work a minimum 4 hours. And on top of that, they would pay for their transportation or gas or any other fees that would go along. And this is the far left, Soros and SEIU and other people doing these things in an attempt to bring down America.
Are you telling me, honestly, and I know you are because I'm aware of this, but we're talking about $400 a day to be nothing more than a paid anarchist against the United States and our government and our Constitution? I'm telling you what, I said it earlier this morning. I know you probably won't agree with this, but when you start talking about Antifa and you start talking about Black Lives Matter and these other chaotic groups, I don't care if it's neo-Nazis, whatever, I think now is the time that we're going to have to talk about laying some of them in a horizontal position, get my drift, because this is anarchy and killing America.
Well, it is, and it's not $400, it's $200 for 4 hours, $50 an hour.
I thought you said they were working a full 8 hours, though.
I go back to blogs I wrote a couple of years ago about this and about Obama and the Great Pretender trying to bring down this country and that. Yeah. And, I keep reiterating in my blogs that we're a nation of laws and we need to enforce our laws. And these people, when they're going out and they're doing this stuff and they're breaking the laws and that, they need to be prosecuted for it, and we need our government to stand up and do that now.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. It's not just I'm not going to put the onus just on the government. I'm going to put the onus on some of these police chiefs and some of the mayors of various cities. Look at Rahm Emanuel. Came out yesterday, this despicable little salt and pepper man, Rahm Emanuel, as mayor of Chicago, and he declared Chicago is a Trump-free zone. He is now the mayor of one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Not the United States, but considered most dangerous in the world. And this is the kind of leadership the left has?
I know, and it's unbelievable, and it's sad. And but again, all this stuff comes back to people in politics that they don't know how to operate in our free market society. They don't know how to in politics, and they say and do this stuff so they get money stuffed in their pocket by the far left.
You know, I'm really emotional about this morning because I am sick and tired. Okay, let's talk a little bit about DACA. And I was glad that Trump canceled it yesterday. I'm glad that it ended. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA program, is going back to where it should have been before the Obama administration took over illegally and pushed it through. It's going back to Congress, and now Trump is called a white supremacist and a bigot and a racist because he's doing things in a legal fashion.
Yeah, and again, Zeb, I've been through all this with the SEIU. They use the same type of tactics against me and my company and people, and they take every little bit of news they can get and spew it and words that are not true and misinforming and lies and all that kind of stuff, just so they can try and bring you down. And the truth is they're the ones that are breaking the law, and they're the ones that should be held accountable for this thing. And we got to stand up and hold them accountable. And I know for a fact, and I've seen it in our industry and other industries across the country, that the illegal immigrants come in. Of course, they bring kids and that and all that. But these people become workers in this country that are paid under the table, and real low wages in that. And what they're basically doing is taking jobs away from normal Americans, and also they're on our benefit programs and that, so they're increasing our national debt and all that kind of stuff. And it's time for this country to wake up and our government put a stop, and Trump's doing the right thing.
How in the world, Dave, did we get to this position? You and I are the same age. And I do not remember an open door policy, a wink and a nod for illegality being allowed in this country. But all of a sudden it rears its ugly head, and we're looking at the Democrats that are supporting this wink and a nod towards illegality, regardless of whether it's DACA or immigration reform or refugees coming in or ISIS, whatever. I'm just appalled that we've let things go the way they are today.
Well, yeah, I am too, but, we had President Obama in office for 8 years, and, he wrote a lot of executive orders, and he put a lot of people in place to change the laws and let these people in, and, it was all for the purpose of ultimately votes to keep the Democrats in power and ultimately to bring this country down. And if you read more and more, I've seen more and more articles coming out, even I'm Catholic, even in some Catholic newspapers, that they believe that some of this, all this stuff is to bring this country down and eliminate the free market and religion in this country.
Yeah, but Dave,
and we got to clean all this mess up and take it back to where we were.
Absolutely. Dave, you're a very, very sharp guy, and I consider you to be one of my real good friends, even though we've never even had a personal handshake between the two of us. But when you start thinking about these no-border people, and the left really is supporting no borders, go anywhere, do whatever you want, have a good time, build a campfire, make chocolate s'mores in this country, here tomorrow, here gone today. What in the world is the lunacy that these people can't see about no borders means you're not going to have any taxpayers, you're not going to have any kind of a constructed government to where you can do things and help people or aid and assist to protect your country. It's going to be open border chaos worldwide. Why can't they see this?
because, Zeb, it's very simple. They want this country to fail, and they want all these things to happen so they can take over and make us into a Marxist, socialistic, communistic country. And that's what this is all about. And, of course, once they would do that, they'd just be like Nazi Germany, and, they would seal everything off so they could control it, and they could control people in this country, and they would pay them, everybody about the same, and you get the same benefits and everything, because when people are the same, then people aren't jealous, and you can control them easier. And this is where this is all headed. And if you go back and read things over the years, and there was an article in a Catholic thing today I saw where they're talking about this is exactly what's happened. They're trying to bring us down from within, and a big part of it is through our education system too. Brainwashing the kids as they're learning and growing up, and I think we're seeing it more now with the millennials.
Well, it's like what happened in New York State, my dear friend. I saw this, and it brought tears to my eyes to think that we have stooped this low in this country. There was a banner hung back in New York State that simply said, "More dead cops." And then they had the Antifa logo. And I told Deanne, I said, I would like to have a billy club. And I'd like to just go down the street and find out who did this, and quite frankly, be probably arrested for brutality, because this has got to stop in this country. We are talking openly about killing some of the people that are supporting and protecting us and serving us. Our policemen and our firemen are at jeopardy right now, and nobody seems to really have the ethics to stand up and say enough is enough.
Well, fortunately, in some states we do, like our state in Indiana, and that our people, our government, standing up and saying things, and it's good what's going on. But the problem is that when you look at the real radical states and the states that have the biggest debts and everything, like California, New York, Illinois, and all that kind of stuff. These people, again, they're fundamentally trying to bring these places down, and you're going to see all this stuff in these places. And it's nice, and I'm sure it's more comfortable for you out in Idaho that you don't see all this stuff locally, because your people out there and your police department that do the right things. But the ones that capture the biggest news are obviously ones that in these bigger states that have the biggest problems.
Yeah. Dave, I want to go back, if I may, to the problem in Texas, and there's so much that we don't understand because we don't live in that area, with the filthy water, and now all the problems caused by the water with the mold and everything else, and the people don't have any clothes, they don't have any income coming in, they don't have any postal deliveries, nothing. A business like yours, I mean, my goodness sakes, I would imagine that they're going to be clamoring for businesses like yours, are they not?
We have not heard anything down there. Now, we're not in the Houston area. We're down in Middle Texas, in that area, and we have not heard anything. But I've not even heard that through, we belong to the Building Contractors Service Association. We really have not heard anything through the websites or the emails we get from them. So it's kind of interesting. I think the problem, Zeb, is everybody is on their heels so much that trying to get this cleaned up is, it's even tough, I think, for them, the people that have cleaning services in Houston, to get people together, because a lot of them have had to flee the area.
Yeah. I mean, I know myself personally. I've talked to a lot of people that live down there, and I can't even fathom where they go, what they do. I know there's going to be a shortage of people in construction. I know there's going to be shortages no matter where you turn around. I can't even fathom how these people are going to reconstruct, or if they're even going to bother to. I think we're going to see a lot of relocation to other parts of the United States. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're going to see that. I mean, obviously they'll be bringing in companies from out of state to start the reconstruction efforts and that, but it's going to take a long time. And, but I think we're going to see a lot of things. And I think we're going to see, it's going to be interesting. I hope Irma doesn't hurt Florida too bad, but I know for a fact, I was talking to some friends yesterday that say they have family in that down in Florida that are already fleeing Florida to get up here for it, in case Irma hits and that down there. Because I think what's happened with Harvey has really woke people up.
Real quick, and I'm running out of time, but I value your comments. I'm sure you're like me, grandfather, father, family man, worried about the situation over in North Korea. These people and the leadership, if you want to call it that, of North Korea, absolutely unstable. And I'm very concerned when they start throwing words out like hydrogen bomb and being able to reach the United States, etc., a death wish. They are warmongers. What are your thoughts about North Korea and what's being done or not being done by the Trump administration?
Well, I'm always worried about people like that because those people are unstable, and you never know when they might just push the button, and that's a scary thing. And, not just for this country, but for Japan and South Korea and other countries out there. And I think at some point you have to make a decision. You have to go in and you have to fix the problem. And if it takes force, it takes force. And you hate to do that. But, as a country, we've learned going through the wars, World War II and World War I and Korean War and that, there's people that, the only way that you're going to get them under control is to with brute force and go after them. And that's unfortunate, but that's the way life is.
I want to revert back to what's happened down in Texas, and I want to give a great big shout-out. We here at this program, my wife and I are going to start working with some people down in Texas and try to develop another kind of a unique way of helping. There's so many people that are jumping in and helping, but you have to give a great big shout-out to Houston, Texas defensive end J.J. Watt. Here's a football player that really showed the human side, and so far I understand this morning from my sources that he's raised over $21 million in relief efforts, and you have to applaud those kinds of athletes today.
Oh, you do, and it's tremendous that some people do things like that, and they won't dip into the pot like the SEIU is doing down there. They're on one hand they're trying to look like they're saviors and everything, but on the other hand they're pulling money out the backside so they can organize people for their own benefit. And it's good to see people like him that are doing things the right way.
Anything else you want to comment on this morning? I've got about a minute and a half left. It's really nice to have you back on the air, and my family, my wife and I, we support you, and I know you've been through some troubled times, but we certainly hope everything's getting better.
Well, it is. We're still going through the aftermath, cleaning things up with my dad's will and all that kind of stuff. And it's still a sad time, but we're working our way through it. And the good thing, Zeb, is he's not suffering anymore, and he's in a better place. And,
Amen.
Those are the things. That's the way you have to view it.
Amen. And please know that our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. And hopefully one of these days there will be a connecting of the trails and we'll be able to sit down and have that little glass of wine. No, forget that. That big bottle of wine and really enjoy each other's friendship. Thank you, Dave.
Well, Zeb, if you came out to Indiana right now, you'd get out of that haze, that smoke haze and that, because I'm looking out the window now at beautiful blue skies and a few white puffy clouds here and there, and our temperature today is going to be high 60s. It's beautiful.
I'll tell you what, it's encouraging to know that you're doing well, and also that the invite is open. You never know, I might be standing outside your door. Please do not have somebody slam it in my face.
Well, I'll make sure that they welcome you in, so please come out.
Dave Migo, great friend. God bless you, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeb.
All right, sir. Thank you. I just really enjoy his friendship and being on the air. I want to talk to you about a sale, a great horse sale. And I had Jerry Zollinger on the phone the other day, and Jerry's been a friend of mine for a long time. Well, Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch, they're having their 29th annual production sale this Saturday, September 9th. Preview at 10. Get up there early. Come on, get out of bed on a Saturday morning. Get up there early and look at some of the best horses you're going to see anywhere, anytime. time. And then the sale starts at 11. It's up at the ranch, 1994 South, 100 east of Oakley. And I'm telling you, this is not just a commercial. This is a fact. You're going to be checking out some of the best working horses with great minds, conformation, and an abundance of color. I'm telling you, the quarter horse industry has been blessed by having Zollinger quarter horses be in business, and now their 29th annual production sale. Get up there, check out these great horses, and buy, own, and enjoy some of the best. From Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch in Oakley, big sale this Saturday. You get on up there. In just a moment, we're going to have a gentleman that's no stranger to this program, and I'm very fortunate to have him on the program with me this morning, Dan Perkins, so stand by for that. Want to remind you... Let's ride. Let's just get on those four-wheelers and get to a higher elevation out of all this doggone smoke. I mean, yes, let's get out of here. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They've got all the four-wheelers. They've got all the side-by-sides. They've got all the accessories. What are you waiting for? Yes, I mean, load one up and get out of here. You're going to be absolutely enjoying the great fall colors and everything that Idaho has to offer for the best in scenery. And you can do it better with a great big four-wheeler, side-by-side, whatever, from Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24, as I said, between Rupert and the World, because it's true. With all the accessories, great service department, everything, this is where the fun is sold. You stop over and see the good folks at Let's Ride. And by the way, too, you want to make sure that you're protected. You want to make sure that your family, your business, everybody is taken care of. Well, you need to get a hold of the professionals in the insurance world, and that's, of course, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Now, the number to call, now, this is your responsibility. You make the appointment, and they'll take care of the rest, okay? Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more. Get a hold of them today, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Well, let's not keep the man waiting any longer. And when I say this gentleman is an author and really a master storyteller, and he's got his first book in his trilogy about terrorism against the United States. It's called The Brotherhood of the Red Nile, and I just really enjoy having him on the program. Good morning, Dan Perkins. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on. I'm headed on Interstate 75 north to get out of the path of the hurricane.
Dan, let me ask you about that first and foremost. Give us some kind of information as to the information that you've received to evacuate. I mean, give us kind of a thumbnail sketch of how bad it might be.
Well, this is a Category 5, top winds at 185 miles an hour. It's slamming into the Leeward Islands, and we're not sure. We live on the southwest coast of Florida, down by the Gulf of Mexico, and one of the paths has it coming up the west coast right into our little island. So we decided that it's probably going to be a lot easier to get out of here now than on, say, Friday or Saturday morning, with the hurricane likely to hit sometime Saturday afternoon. So we're leaving perhaps a little bit early, but not as early as other people have left, and we're headed to near Asheville, North Carolina, to try and avoid either direction of the hurricane hitting.
You know, Dan, I myself, living in Idaho, I have no rhyme or reason or even any thought process as to how I would act or what I would do if I lived in the approach of a hurricane like you are. I mean, when you first heard that Hurricane Irma, which they say is one of the biggest ever in recorded history, is going to be moving your way, I mean, what does a person think of first and foremost, and what do you do?
Well, you think about all the things that you've done to prepare. We have storm shutters for the windows and sliding doors on the third level. We have hurricane film on all the windows below that. You bring in the furniture and the pots and the plants and try and secure everything outside, and pray. I mean, you turn off the water, and you make sure that you take with you your, because we're an island, there's a restriction. So if there's a storm, in order to get back on the island, you need a passport to get on. And so you got to make sure you've got that with you. You got to take your, I want to take your insurance policy and your passport and your checking account, and make sure you've got all your medicines with you. And you pack up a bag, and then you start thinking about how long you're going to have to be gone, and then where you want to go, and where's the. See, the problem with this storm, if it goes left and goes up the west coast of Florida, and you're up in Georgia, you could be running right smack into it. If you decide to go up into the Carolinas, and this hurricane hits the east coast, it could go right up straight to the Carolinas. So it's a difficult choice to try and figure out where to go. So we're going to Asheville, which is pretty much in the middle. But you never know with a hurricane of this magnitude. It could be devastating all the way up the entire East Coast.
You know, Dan, I really appreciate and respect the fact that you're on the air with us this morning, even while en route away from that storm. But, I mean, you knew this when you bought that property and built your house down in that area. And did you have a lot of fears or kind of trepidations when you moved there because you knew it was in, quote-unquote, kind of a hurricane zone, did you not?
Well, yes, but you know when you do the house, you put 135 mile an hour shingles on the roofing, which you probably wouldn't put in your hometown. We have a pool, and we have an aluminum structure cage around the pool. It's designed to withstand winds of 145 miles an hour, and the roof has to be put on a certain way. So you do what you can. And you look at where you are, and are you wide open, or do you have a lot of shelter and protection with trees around you, which we fortunately have, and we're on the bay side of the island as opposed to the Gulf side, where it could come directly in from the Gulf.
All right, now, Dan.
You know, you talk about real estate being location. Well, hurricanes, you got to think about location too.
Absolutely. Dan, you, of all people, would be very knowledgeable as to what was or wasn't done over in the Houston, Texas area, and I'll bet your heart goes out to those people because it sounds like, even with notification, a lot of those people absolutely were swept up literally in a storm that has put them out of their home, out of their lifestyle on a long-term basis.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and it is devastating. I did hear a number, and I apologize to you. I haven't had a chance to verify it, so I don't know whether it's true or not. I haven't done a fact check, but as I heard it, I began to realize, having been in Houston many, many times, and what's really bizarre about this storm that hit over there. If you read the first book of my trilogy, The Brotherhood of the Red Nile, the event that takes place exactly in the area where the hurricane hit last week. So It's kind of ironic that all the things that are happening there about shutting down the energy supply and the refineries and everything else was the same location where my book took place.
Wow.
One of the things that I thought was interesting, having been to Houston many, many times, Houston is it is one person's opinion. Houston is a city that is still in dire need of a planning board, because there is no rhyme or reason to what is developed in Houston. And the statistic that I heard was that the amount of roadway in Houston, a city not much larger than Corpus Christi, is 4 times the road surface area that there is in Corpus Christi.
Wow.
Why that's important is that you've paved over the natural drainage,
right?
Because you've eliminated the ability of the rainwater to get into the aquifer through the dirt. So if you've quadrupled the amount of concrete that you've laid, there's no place for the water to go. It just has to literally sit there and slowly seep out. So that's going to be a problem for Houston forever. It is a function of their growth and their uncontrolled and unplanned growth, in my opinion.
Let me ask you this, Dan, and I don't want to beleaguer this fact because I know you're probably nervous and have trepidations about the future as it bodes with Hurricane Irma as it is. But what about FEMA? And you're kind of our in-house expert on this because this morning I've been told that FEMA, and it's stretched so thin with the money and the supplies necessary for the Houston area. And then if we look at Hurricane Irma coming into Florida, wow, where's all the money and the help going to come from? This is kind of getting hit with a left hook and a right cross all at the same time.
You know, that's a great observation because what you're really saying is we are going to have to make a decision at the federal government level. How important is the government's responsibility to protect its people? And so that, in my opinion, that means that the federal government, the Congress, is going to have to appropriate money, and they may have to take money away from something else. But the bottom line is that the government is empowered by the people, and one of the responsibilities of the government is the safety and the security of the people itself. So there could be no higher priority, whether it's Texas or Florida or the Carolinas or the ravaging fires in California. Doesn't make any difference where it is. The American people, in the minds of Congress, for their safety and their security, has to come first.
Absolutely. Dan, I feel almost embarrassed to ask you about the topic of the day that I wanted to ask you about because I know you have a lot of concerns and I won't take too long, but I've got to ask you about the status of North Korea right now. I myself, as a father, a grandfather, I am really, really concerned that we are on the precipice of having someone hit the red button. What are your thoughts?
It was on China Global Network Television last night. I've been there a number of times recently. At the same time yesterday, and I'm not sure you know this, but I'm now writing for Newsmax. I have my own blog called The Billboard of Ideas. And yesterday's post, which is also on the homepage of Newsmax, was on the very issue that you're talking about. And I said is that title of the piece, Americans are going to have to die first. I do not believe that we will create a preemptive strike on North Korea. That's not to say that other countries, for example, Japan might. But I have been a proponent now for over 2 months of an idea that is not getting any play, and it's an alternative. And that is that we embargo the country. There are 5 ports in North Korea. Only 2 are capable of ocean cargo. So we do 2 things. And in the piece yesterday, I added a new dimension. We put an embargo on the 5 ports, so we interdict anything going in or out, much as we did with the Cuban Missile Crisis. We surround those 5 ports, and it won't take a lot of ships to do that. And my suspect is we could probably get some support from England, Australia, and Japan, and maybe China and Russia of embargo. Number 2, we have an aircraft called a B-2 bomber. The capabilities of that aircraft is that it can be flying over North Korea. It can be given an assignment to fire a missile at a specific target. And when that missile has been loosed and headed towards the target, if the spotters find a higher value target, they can literally turn that missile. They can control. So even though it's on target for target X, if the decision is made that Y is more important, they can actually steer that fired missile to Y. And I think that with the combination of the embargo and the overflights of the B-2 bombers, we can intercept very quickly with surgical strikes his capabilities. But I read a piece this morning where the Chinese government is very concerned about the radiation exposure from the hydrogen explosion over last weekend.
Yeah.
So China's getting nervous that their country may be infiltrated by radioactive material as a result of this bombing. So I think that China is going to have to step up, but I think we can do the embargo, we can do the overflights. We don't have to put American troops on the ground. We can take away their energy, we can take away their food, and we can help them make a decision very quickly. And then the B-2 bomber gives us an opportunity as a defensive mechanism to shoot things down before they even get out of the country.
Let me ask you this, Dan, and again, I'm relying on your expertise and knowledge because of your writing, etc. But I talked to a former high-ranking military man, and I have to leave his name basically anonymous right now without permission to share that on the air. And his concerns are that a lot of our missile defense system is basically outdated and not tested. Do you share maybe some of his concerns that we haven't, over the last 8 years with Obama and previously, really done a lot to make sure that we're updated and fresh with knowledge that we need for security?
I do not believe we've updated that technology. I know it has been tested. So far, it's been proven to be about 40% effective. Again, on Newsmax, I did a piece a couple of weeks ago about this very issue that you're talking about, and that was the Gipper had it right. Reagan had it right when he was talking about building nuclear defense capabilities, the Star Wars, if you would, and he was proven right. And so we have this defense mechanism in Hawaii. However, it's not been, not even been 50% reliable. So that's why when I was looking at this, and I wrote this piece yesterday for Newsmax, Americans are going to have to die first. We are not the nation, the aggressor nation. We, in our history, have been drug into the First World War, drug into the Second World War. We didn't want to do that. Actually, from our very foundings as a nation, we were an isolationist type of nation. We just wanted to build America. We didn't really care about the rest of the world per se. And we've had that philosophy for most of its life. But now we find ourselves in a situation where we have this dictator who is on a power trip, and I'm not sure that anybody can contain him.
Yeah.
And the stakes got higher over the weekend with the hydrogen bomb and the fallout from that underground test. So I think that they're going to have to strike first, and then when they do strike, our response will be, as Mr. Trump said, fire and fury.
Let me ask you this final thought, Dan. Do you trust North Korea's own press releases as to how good they really are? Is it a lot of smoke and mirrors, or do you really think that they're as advanced as they try to tell the world they are?
Well, I think there's some chest thumping there. The success rate of launching their missiles has been very poor. I thought it was extremely telling. The last missile launch physically went over the country of Japan, which is a violation of international law. I think that every time they test, they're improving the quality. This is why the embargo would be so important, because the embargo would stop all the stuff going into the country and anything coming out. So their ability to progress in their system would be greatly impacted by the embargo. And I think even the threat of an embargo, a boistering of the opinion about we're going to put together a coalition and do an embargo on North Korea. And the other thing you got to take into consideration, okay, and I think a lot of people miss this. The entire country of North Korea is smaller than the state of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dan, I'm
smaller than the state of New Jersey.
I am
so from a defensive standpoint and the ability to get there and do things, we can do that. But
yes.
So far, they have not proven. They say they can, but they haven't proved anything beyond 1,500 miles. So the idea that they can reach the United States, which again I think is a problem, and I've written about this. We keep thinking about the fact that the missiles are going to deliver the atomic weapon. We have to be careful that we do not discount what I've suggested is another alternative, and that is to take the nuclear warhead off the missile, put it in a cargo container, put it on a ship going to China, which turns around and is coming to the United States.
Absolutely.
And it gets 10 miles out of L.A. or San Francisco or Baltimore or Boston or Miami and explodes from the container ship in close proximity and does devastating damage to wherever it goes.
Absolutely.
We seem to be concentrating on the missile delivery, and we're not spending very much time, in my opinion, on the other alternative delivery system.
Dan, I want to wish you the very best, and please know that our thoughts and prayers are with you, your family, and also your property that you have down there in Florida. I hope things turn around and you're safe, and there's very, very limited or minimal damage due to Hurricane Irma. Thank you for taking the time to come on the program. It meant a lot to me, and ladies and gentlemen, the author of the trilogy called The Brotherhood of the Red Nile, author and master storyteller and a good friend of this program, Dan Perkins. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on the show, and people can go to my website, danperkins.guru, and see copies of the commentaries that I'm writing and more information about the books. And as always, thank you for having me on your show.
Be safe, my friend. Thank you very much. A gentleman that right now is leaving his home in Florida and driving up to the Carolinas to get away from the great storm that they predicted is going to hit possibly on Sunday, called Hurricane Irma, and we wish him safety as he tries to avoid that storm. Dan Perkins, thank you very much. I've got to get a weather forecast on here. Old Wheels over at the station saying, Zeb, look at the clock, look at the clock. Okay. The weather brought to you this hour by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. CPAs that have been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. Over 50 years. Seriously, they are one of the very, very best. Tax return preparation, business consulting, financial statement preparation, retirement planning. They know all about this, and they can help you, your family, and your business. Please get a hold of them today. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, CPAs in Burley and Gooding. Burley and Rupert. I have no clue why I said Gooding, and I can just imagine they went, what? We moved? No, I said the wrong city. I don't know why I did that. Burley and Rupert. There you go. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Right now, here's the weather.
If you have upper respiratory issues, you might want to limit your outdoor time, as we do have widespread smoke in our area and a air quality alert. Here's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. Yes, it is going to be very, very smoky, as there's 57 different wildfires burning in our region between Idaho, Washington, and Montana. So that is where all of the smoke is coming from. Other than that, going to be a little bit on the breezy side for today. Sunny skies, if we could actually see beyond that smoke. High of 93, tonight low of 58. Looks like the smoke is going to be sticking with us as we get through the weekend as well. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 93, overnight low of 60. Looks like smoky and sunny for Friday, high of 89. Looks like 86 for Saturday and 86 for Sunday. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And don't forget our friends. I hope they're still my friends. I relocated them by accident. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, CPAs, and they can help so many people starting a business, partnership, or a corporation, or business owners that want to expand and hire more employees, or you, your family. Please get a hold of them today. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, CPAs, with offices in Burley and Rupert. There you go. Excuse me. The smoke is not good out there this morning, so be careful, everybody. I've got time for a phone call. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to say, now that man that was on just a few minutes ago, Dan Perkins, he did not have to take that call this morning. But, there again, the dedication of some of my guests that have been loyal to this program on a nationwide basis. Here's a man that has evacuated his property in Florida and threw a few household goods and belongings into a car and trying to escape the Hurricane Irma. And he took the time to come on the program this morning, and I really, really appreciate that. That's the caliber of guest that we have on the show, and I certainly appreciate Dan, and I'm going to let him know how much in the future, because he always takes the time, regardless of what he's doing, what he's writing, to come on this show. Thank you. I want to remind you, too, about our friends at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. The number to call, 436-3200. They are the only locally owned and operated assisted living facility in the Mini-Cassia area. And they're able to provide more one-on-one care. That's right, and they urge you to stop by and visit their facility anytime, take a tour, and see why Autumn Haven would be a great place for that loved one of yours that needs that little extra care. Please stop in or give them a call today. They're located at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. The number to call, 436-3200. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. And they're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Wow. It is not good outside, and I can't even see across the canyon right here from my studio window, and it really, really is smoky, and I urge you, if you have lung problems or whatever, try to stay out of the weather as much as you can today. It's going to remain, according to what Gina's weather was a little bit ago, that it's going to stick with us for at least another 3, 4, maybe 5 days before it starts clearing out of here, so be careful. We're going to take a little break and come back with a lady that's new to our program, and her name is Nancy Parsons, and she's going to come on the air. And then at 10:32, you don't want to miss Pacific Legal Foundation. Tony Francois going to talk about a 78-year-old rancher up in Montana digs a little pond, and the government cracks down on him with the Clean Water Act. We're going to talk more about that later. Right now, we're going to go to the news from CBS. Oh my, I mean, it is smoky, smoky, smoky outside, and I urge you, if you don't have to be outside today, don't be. It's not good out there, believe me. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and welcome back to our third hour, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of tires and all the other amenities. You be sure and stop in. And don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service, 734-6969. We're going to have our guest with us in just a moment. Stand by, but I want to remind you, and I've said this many, many times this morning, and every morning, I should say, on the program, Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street, near the Connection Credit Union in Heyburn, absolutely is a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small. They love them all, treat them all, take care of them all. You know, there absolutely is, it's comforting to know that Dr. Bill and the whole staff over at Ark Animal Hospital, they really know pets. They really know the health of animals, and they will work with you to make sure that their health is maintained. They do have the warm hearts for the cold noses. Give them a call. Stop in. 678-1177, 678-1177. Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn. Absolutely, like I said a moment ago, warm hearts for cold noses. Also want to remind you, too, that Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch is going to have their great big sale coming up on this Saturday. And I really want to stress to you that this is one of the premier horse sales in America. And the best of the quarter horse breed right there, let me tell you. Annual production sale this Saturday, September 9th. Preview at 10 a.m., sale at 11. And it's up at the ranch at 1994 South, 100 east of Oakley. And I mean, you're going to be looking at horses that have great minds, great conformation, and an abundance of color. I don't care if you're a roper like I am, in the cutting horse business, working cow horse, or just want to saddle up and go for a ride. You can find the best right here at Zollinger Quarter Horse Sale, production sale. This Saturday the 9th, starting at 11 o'clock, you be there at the ranch in Oakley. I have not had this lady on my program in the past, to my knowledge, and I'm looking forward to her coming on next and basically telling us a little bit about herself and what she does. And I say a good morning to Nancy Parsons. Good morning to you.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, it's my pleasure, Nancy. Give us a thumbnail sketch of who Nancy Parsons is and what Nancy Parsons does.
Yes. Well, I am the president and co-founder of CDR Assessment Group. We've been in business since 1998. We provide assessments for global clients, and I'm here in Sugar Land, Texas, and have just released my new book, Fresh Insights to End the Glass Ceiling.
Well, now, you're down in Sugar Land, Texas. I hope you'll pardon me if I ask you, how has Hurricane Harvey affected you, your property, your business, etc.?
Well, it's been a rather strange week and a half. Definitely, our house is surrounded with water. We could not get out. And last week, we even had a boat come up to rescue us. So that was a little daunting. And meanwhile, my book was being released, so that was pretty interesting. But fortunately for us, the water never entered the house; it came up to the door.
Oh my!
And but just seeing the Houston community come together, that's been, after this really tragic event, has been phenomenal. The people are really good and helping each other. It's amazing to see.
Well, I want to talk all about your book and about your concepts in the book, but I've got to ask you a couple of questions, knowing that you do reside down in Sugar Land, Texas. Through this program, Nancy, we're trying to do something a little extra to help the folks down there. What can you tell us as far as, I know that people are really suffering. I know people are out of their homes. I know people aren't getting any postal service, hard to get their medications, their prescriptions. What can you tell us as far as what can we do to help you folks down there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing is to go to either, the Red Cross Salvation Army. They're set up to handle, obviously, donations and support and coordinate. There's also a number of churches who are organizing together to get, clothing, food, those sorts of donations, because that's very important, since people have lost initially the numbers were that 1 million people have been displaced.
Oh, my.
So it's really, people need basically everything.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to email you afterwards some more local organizations that are working with groups.
Oh, if you would, I'd be so much obliged to that. Thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about your book, Fresh Insights to End, emphasis on End the Glass Ceiling. What does that mean, and what's the book about?
Okay, and so what it means is women are not making it to the senior levels of organizations at a very good pace, not at all. And in fact, since 1979, when the Pregnancy Act went into effect, that's when companies could no longer fire women for getting pregnant. And that's been nearly 4 decades ago. Yet we only have 5.8% of women serving as CEOs, and only about 14% of women are in senior leadership positions. Meanwhile, we have more than 60% of college graduates are women today. So what's happening is women are getting so far or getting stuck in mid-management, but they're not ascending to those more senior levels. And so what we did is we looked at some research that actually showed us why this is happening, and it's not what people think. And meanwhile, if we stay on this current trajectory, it'll take nearly 400 years for women just to attain 50% of the CEO position.
Wow. Okay.
So we just think we need to accelerate that. And we did find, again, the root cause of what's happening. And bottom line is we do personality-based research and assessments. And based on the strengths, men and women are both equally capable to serve as leaders.
Yeah.
Where we found the differences were on what we call the risk assessment. And these personality-based risks show up when people are under stress, adversity, or conflict. And that the women tended to be high worriers, and the men in the study group were high egotists, upstagers, and rule breakers. So what this means is women under pressure and conflict withdraw. They get frozen in fear. They don't speak up. They overanalyze. Meanwhile, the men are being loud and pushy and aggressive, and they're winning the day. So when you boil it all down, the women are actually pulling themselves out of the running.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing it to them. We're doing it to ourselves.
Let me ask you this, Nancy, and it's not so much asking you a question as it's making a statement, and I'm kind of hanging myself out on the line here. I got to be really careful. I have advocated on this program for years and years that the best person should get the job. And I've equated that like into the NFL, where there's always been, the minorities, they should have the head coaching job here, etc. And I said, no, we can't base this on color or ethnicity. We have to always take the best person. Do you feel that women have been looked over because of a sexist attitude and the best person may not have been taken as an applicant for that job?
Yes, I do think, and I'm not sure it was just sexist. It's the way it's cultural and so forth. But here's the interesting part too. We also did research on the performance of women in these leadership roles, and what we found is the studies support the more women you have in senior leadership posts, the better your company performs. One study, in fact, with 22,000 companies just finished last year by the Peterson Institute of Global Economics, showed that those companies that had at least 30% women in senior leadership positions showed a 15% increase in profitability.
Okay.
So it's really a bottom line thing, too. And what's happening is just because somebody's a man is, say, more aggressive, loud, boisterous, doesn't make him the more effective leader.
That's right.
Now we need to develop women leaders and men leaders and help them minimize the risks, whatever they are. But I agree with you. We want the most qualified people. Even in the book, I talk about tokenism. We don't want tokens. We don't want women just put in jobs because they're women. That doesn't help anyone.
How in
the best fit for the positions, but many of them are women and they're being bypassed.
Well, okay, now again, I'm going to sound a little naive on this subject, and I don't mean to be because it's really interesting to me, but how do you police, let me put that word in there and underline it, how do you police different organizations or different businesses, etc., to make sure that women are getting a fair shot at a respective CEO job? I mean, how do you go about checking it out to make sure that they're being considered in a proper fashion?
Well, obviously that's not police, that term, but there is a way for them to make sure, and it is by using appropriate psychological testing, the type that we use. They're validated for selection, so we know who fits what job. We know from a CEO to sales to marketing to IT who fits what profile. So once you get that job fit, and even at the lower levels, you see that somebody has that profile that they can become a senior level executive, then develop them accordingly. Too often we promote people because they have a PhD or they have an MBA, yet they're not remotely qualified for the job they're being promoted to. So we can determine that with assessments. Our company, and there's some others out there that are very reputable as well.
Yeah.
So you can't just do it through interviews or through knowing somebody or seeing them for snapshots of time.
Okay.
You have to dig beneath the surface to know who's really going to be best at what. And these are scientifically validated tools that we use. And until you start adding science into the selection and promotion decisions, we're not going to make the headway we need to make.
You know, I noticed that on the cheat sheet that I have regarding having you on the air, it said from CEO to President of the United States, where do we stand? Now, I've got to talk to you a little bit about the presidency. You know, I was a big advocate back in 2007 for having Condoleezza Rice run for the presidency. I thought that woman was extremely smart, was extremely well gifted with all the international acquaintances and business leaders and heads of country. I thought Condoleezza Rice would have been an excellent presidential nominee. Now, I will compare that to today with Hillary Clinton. I don't think she was qualified to be president. I'm not trying to be partisan. I just think that she was running on the coattails of her husband, Bill. So there's a big difference there, but what do you think about a future woman president of the United States?
Oh, yeah, I think it's feasible, and I think it's very feasible soon. We also, just so you know, we looked at CEO women and corporate executive women who have made it, and their risks actually look more like the men's risks. So there's women out there already who have that boldness. The other piece is they have to be motivated for it as well, which we also measure. But you're right, it's not going to be easy. Here's the other thing that women face in politics on both sides of the aisle. They are scrutinized much more tough, in a tough manner, to the nth degree, where their male counterparts are not. You even remember, Carly Fiorina and Hillary and all of them, Sarah Palin, they're put under the microscope to such a great extent. We also conducted research comparing our personality traits to cultural perceptions in the Pew survey data, and what we learned there was not only are there greater biases against women, they're way out of whack. They are much more severe than people think. So, if a woman's an egotist and a man's an egotist, for example, she's going to be labeled in much more negative ways than he will. He's just a go-getter. He's out there. He's passionate. She, on the other hand, is the B word and everything else.
Yeah. I really hear what you're saying, and
women find that bias is more difficult for women at this point in time.
Right. Let me ask you this. When Sarah Huckabee, and I think her last name is Sanders, all of a sudden my mind went blank. It's Huckabee's daughter that is now the spokesperson for the White House at the news conferences and press conferences. I absolutely think that they made the best choice in putting her behind the podium. She is straight, she's direct, and yet the left came out and just absolutely vilified her. How does a woman overcome that as compared to a man in that same position?
Right. Well, she would have to have what we call some high adjustment and the ability to let this kind of feedback and criticism roll off her shoulders and lower what we call interpersonal sensitivity, where she's not ultra-sensitive to what people say about her.
Right.
So she's kind of got a tougher veneer, which is good. And with higher adjustment, meaning she's calm, very self-confident, she doesn't let them rattle her. So she has that profile that she can push through despite all this nonsense or nastiness coming at her. And she can still think on her feet. So she demonstrates, not obviously I don't have her measures, but she demonstrates those behaviors that you need to succeed in that type of a role, or in a political role where there's a lot of controversy. She's steady, she's calm, she's direct, and she stays on task. She's able to think under duress, which is great.
Well,
you need somebody like that as your chief spokesperson.
Well, I think that you could take and transform her name right over to Kellyanne Conway or Nikki Haley or any number of people in the spotlight politically, and they could also apply those same talents as head of a CEO of a company, could they not?
Absolutely. They have that type of a profile that they are, with incoming, they're still thoughtful. They can push back, fight back, do what they need to do, and still be calm and thoughtful in their ability to communicate.
Let me ask you this: when people get your book and they read your,
and there's a lot of women who are really strong in communications, even if they're worriers, they can learn how to downplay that, how to prevent it from, overtaking them. So that's why this research is important.
Absolutely.
So many women are very capable. We all have risks. First of all, as human beings, we all have different sets of risks. So we want to make sure that women aren't doing these self-defeating behaviors when on their bright sides and their strengths, they have all these wonderful qualities.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this final question here this morning, Nancy. When people get your book, Fresh Insights to End the Glass Ceiling, and they read the book, what do you want them to take away from the book when they close the last cover?
I want them to take away that it's important for them to be self-aware. What are my key strengths? What are my risks and vulnerabilities? What trips me up under pressure? And what can I do to improve or prevent those situations that undermine my effectiveness or my relationships with other people?
Wow.
And they can do that. They can get a coach if they want to go through assessment. But if they really, sit in a still spot and think about it, under pressure and conflict, how they've reacted in ways that don't serve them, they can make some headway.
Absolutely. Nancy, you are a great guest, and I've enjoyed having you on the program. Nancy Parsons, author of A Fresh Insights to End the Glass Ceiling, brand new book. Where can the book be obtained?
At Amazon.
Okay. Well, we'll send everybody to Amazon for your book, and I want to tell you how I thought you were a very nice lady coming on the program this morning. God's blessings to you, and I hope the book is a huge success. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. You take care.
God bless. Thank you very much. Nancy Parsons, the author of the book called Fresh Insights to End the Glass Ceiling, and very interesting lady. Thank you very much. I got to pay some bills, and then I'll take some more phone calls. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you that tomorrow is Thursday. I keep losing a day this week, for heaven's sakes. Tomorrow's Thursday, and I want to remind you at 10:10 we have a segment called Cassia County School Days. And it's brought to you by two wonderful businesses. First of all, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And they've got all the new fall dresses, and they've got all the baby clothing and the baby blankets and the furniture. Oh, my goodness, it's a family store. Stop in and enjoy today A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, along with our friends at the Ambulatory Surgery Center. For your outpatient surgeries, they can and will save you money. Life-saving colonoscopies, carpal tunnel hand surgeries, much, much more. And they're located at 1344 Highland Avenue, Suite E in Burley. Number to call, find out more, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Want to remind you, too, that coming up Saturday, the second annual Patriotic Car Show and Swap Meet, and this is going to be right there on the historic Rupert Square, starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, going till 4 in the afternoon, standing up for the red, white, and blue. Absolutely. George Mass, Donna Mass, thank you for all you do, and it's sponsored by the City of Rupert, Combat Vets Association, and Rupert Veterans Memorial. And they're going to have classic cars, race cars. Whoa, I used to race stock cars years ago. Eons ago. Had a ball. And community flag retirement, entertainment, food, heavy on the emphasis, food, and it's going to be good. All this coming up on Saturday on the Rupert Historic Square. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Seb, do you really think that Congress has the capability and the capacity to do what Trump has turned over to him to do?
Oh, Bob, wait a minute. You got to look at the order and sequence as to what has to happen. This should have never been taken over by Obama. That was illegal. It is Congress's job. And it's not whether I think they have the capacity or the mental capability. It's their job. They need to be pushed and coerced into doing their job. And about time, I would say, because they are not doing a thing for the American public.
You're absolutely right. They need to be coerced, whipped, beat, something sure has to be done, and that includes our own fantastic Idaho delegation.
I agree with you, Bob, and I'll tell you what, I get a little hot sometimes when I hear everybody always lay the blame in the last 9 months on Trump and his administration. What he is doing is following the law, something that Obama did not do and literally got unscathed by the media. And now it's time to turn it back to the powers that be in our Constitution, and that's the Congress.
I agree with you 100%.
All right, my friend.
If it ever been done, he should have been hung by you-know-what, but it didn't get done. And now they really need to get a hold of things and do it.
I agree. Bob, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your call. Thank you.
Bye.
Let's see, what else have I got here? Oh, I want to remind you, too, and I've got to get this in, that on the 14th, next Thursday, not this Thursday, next Thursday, the 14th, we're going to be over at Ramsey Heating and Electric for our annual, it's turned into a big, big deal, annual remote broadcast, and we're going to be over there 7 o'clock in the morning. George Mass is going to be there with all the great gravy and biscuits and everything. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be fantastic. Then at 8 o'clock, we'll do our broadcast over there for 3 hours, and it's our annual Hats Off to Farmers and Patriots Week celebration at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And the proceeds from the breakfast that George and Donna are going to cook up go to our Zeb's Christmas Corral so we can help needy families at Christmas time. Please, 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 please come by and support us if you would. Right now I'm going to turn it back over to Wheels in the main studio. We'll be back in 3 or 4 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you, and welcome back to our last half hour. You know, yesterday my wife and I were very fortunate to meet with Holly over at Pomerelle Place, a place for senior living at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. We were so impressed with the facilities. We were so impressed with the people and all the amenities, having fine dining for all their guests, transportation available, activities and recreation, and so many more things for the convenience of seniors that need that little extra care. And by golly, I'll tell you, it's provided at Pomerelle Place, a place for senior living, a very enjoyable place at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley, 677-8212. Daily on this program, we're going to talk about the different facets of Pomerelle Place in Burley, so you stay tuned. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and I got to tell you right up front that this story that Tony Francois is going to be talking about on behalf of Pacific Legal Foundation has got my blood boiling, because it reminds me so much of a case that I knew of and had on my air many times, of a family over in Wyoming that had dug a farm pond and was absolutely set upon by the EPA and everything and tried to be fined and run out of business. Wow. A 78-year-old man in prison for digging a pond? Tony, come on, this is absolutely insane.
Well, you'd think so, but that's the this is the era of no reasonable process. I can't even say it straight. It's so crazy. No reasonable prosecutor would, indict a presidential candidate, but apparently they'll throw an elderly gentleman in prison for building a pond without the Army Corps of Engineers' permission.
Let me ask you, give us a little basic information about the story. Now, all I know is that Mr. Joseph Robertson is in prison for digging ponds without a permit up in Montana, one on supposedly federal land, the other on private property. Give us a thumbnail sketch as to what really happened.
Sure. So Mr. Robertson owns some property. It's a mining claim that is inside the boundaries of one of the national forests in Montana. And he developed a couple of ponds off of a creek there. And I want to say that this creek, the location of the ponds, I apologize, 60 miles. These ponds are about 60 miles from the nearest river that you would actually float boats on, navigable. And yet the Army Corps of Engineers has insisted for many years that it has jurisdiction over this creek in and near Mr. Robertson's property because it is in the convoluted and Orwellian definition of navigable waters under the Federal Clean Water Act under their jurisdiction. So there's been some period of back and forth between Mr. Robertson and the federal authorities over whether he could do this. And then ultimately they prosecuted him for building these two ponds, as well as for damage to federal property, because at least one of them happened to be on Forest Service property. So on the one hand, I mean, there are a lot of circumstances where people have good faith disputes with the government over whether or not the Clean Water Act applies to any given trickle of water or mud puddle. And yet this really, steps that up by the fact that instead of simply, trying to get a court order to get him to stop, or, resolving this dispute through a formal, jurisdictional determination, which he could then challenge, they prosecuted him. And he's currently serving the remainder of an 18-month sentence in federal prison, I think in Colorado.
Oh, my.
Which is due to end in December of this year. And one of the really remarkable things about this prosecution is that, you basically need a law degree and technical, scientific, and technical training to ever really figure out whether, a given, wet spot on the ground is just a wet spot on the ground or something that the Army Corps is going to consider the federal government's navigable water, which you need their permission to use. And so that was really, there was a hearing in his appeal last week in Seattle before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And that was really the big issue in his appeal is, if the ordinary citizen has no idea whether or not, a given portion of his property is navigable waters under this impenetrable definition, how can you throw them in prison for not knowing that?
Yeah.
And, one of the judges actually asked the Justice Department's appellate attorney, well, look, I mean, if lawyers and judges can't get these Venn diagrams to match up, how can you put somebody in prison as a layperson, as an ordinary citizen, for not being able to figure this out? That's a good question.
I'm sitting here, and it reminds me so much of the Johnson case over in Wyoming, where they basically, in short terminology, dug out a little family farm pond, and man alive, all of a sudden they're threatened with $75,000 a day in fines, etc. They won their case. What's going on with your involvement to help Mr. Robertson?
Well, Pacific Legal Foundation filed a friend of the court brief on Mr. Robertson's behalf to try to assist him in winning his appeal. Of course, Pacific Legal Foundation also represented Andy Johnson and his family in their dispute with the EPA over their stock pond. So, this is a particular area of expertise for us, this, kind of gray area at the edge of, where the federal government can regulate under the Clean Water Act. And the argument we made on Mr. Robertson's behalf is that, the Ninth Circuit's interpretation of what's navigable waters isn't even settled. It's got no clear definition of what is and isn't navigable waters. And under those circumstances, one of the points we made is that a decision they made several years ago has been subsequently completely undermined by a more recent decision, and this leaves the ordinary citizen with absolutely no guidance as to what is and isn't something they need a federal permit to do.
Yeah.
The irony of this, though, is that, even if this were something that, an Army Corps permit were required for, the idea of imprisoning people for this kind of conduct is, it's just, the word oppressive comes to mind.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Tony, and I'm not a lawyer, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express 2 weeks ago. But anyhow, I read this statement that was put out by the DOJ, and this really caused me a lot of alarm. It said, quote, Robertson's ponds resulted in the discharge of dredged and fill material into a tributary stream and adjacent wetlands and caused widespread damage to both properties. Well, at that juncture, I would like to know exactly what the widespread damage was and have a complete discernment as to what he did that caused damage and really resulted in his arrest. Explain that to me.
Well, unfortunately, I do not have access to the details on what the government claims the harm was of the construction of these ponds. But here's something to keep in mind in assessing a statement like that. At the very beginning of it, they say he discharged dredged and filled material into navigable waters. And all that is a claim that he violated the Clean Water Act.
Right.
That is a verbatim parroting of the technical terms in the statute. And so it really gives you no sense of scale or severity or any detail at all as to what actually happened. And, my bet would be, and when we're done with this discussion, I'm going to go track this down. And if you want, I can shoot you an update on it.
Right.
My bet would be that if you were walking through the forest and you came upon the completed pond, you would not think, oh my gosh, look who destroyed all this stuff. What we've seen the government agencies and the Justice Department in particular do repeatedly is in an entire landscape or an entire vicinity around an area where they say somebody's done something without a permit, they'll zero in at the smallest scale they can to find what they think is an ugly pile of dirt or a rut in that runs through a wet area, and they'll point to that and say, well, at a very, very small scale, this is horrific damage. This is harm, but nobody really, no normal people look at what they see in the forest that way. No normal people would look at an entire landscape and decide that it had been ruined because there's a tire rut over there, or there's a scrape over there from some equipment,
right.
Or there's a little pile of dirt here in the water. And so there is, I would say, a level of dishonesty in the way these kinds of cases are described. You can always find an expert who will opine that this little pile of dirt here in that puddle of water, causes incalculable harm to the environment. But that's just hyperbole. So, I am always fairly suspicious when the beginning of their description of the case is just this rote parroting of the statute itself, and then they conclude from that, and so that's automatically, this horrible thing. The parallels to the Duarte case, the Duarte nursery case that we handled here in California, are pretty similar. There, the Duarte company plowed a piece of property by the government's own expert report, 4 to 7 inches deep.
Yeah.
And that expert report went on to describe this as having turned the landscape, this field, into small mountain ranges.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, if your lead argument is that a 6-inch high furrow of dirt is a small mountain range, what are we arguing about?
Yeah.
That's absurd. But that's, unfortunately all too common these days in the way they describe these cases.
Tony, one final thought here, and I don't mean to be nitpicking, but I've got to ask you this. The headline said, 78-year-old man imprisoned for digging ponds without a permit, one on federal land and the other on private property. Let's just erase the part that says on federal land. Would the same circumstances have availed and prevailed themselves had it just been on private property?
Well, technically and legally, yes. Now, as a historical question of whether they would have gone to this extent if there had not been the dispute over whether he was also operating on Forest Service property, that I don't know. That's hard to say. But the the EPA and the Corps of Engineers take this position about these remote, small, even isolated, waters that are tens of miles from the nearest actually navigable waterway, whether or not they're talking about your private property or, a national park or a city street. In their view, an awful lot of your private property is actually their navigable water, and they want you to get their permission to use it. And so this is why we continue to fight in the courts over the expansive way that the federal government interprets navigable under the Clean Water Act.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is right after the program, I'm going to go out with my shovel in my little orchard, and I'm going to dig a little pond, and then I'm going to call you to represent me as I'm hauled off to jail. Tony Francois with Pacific Legal Foundation. How can my friends that are listeners follow this case? Give us some information.
Well, absolutely. So our website is pacificlegal.org, and that has information on all of our current cases and a lot of the work that we do. And then on that, on our homepage, you can link directly to our Liberty blog, and we provide fairly regular case updates on the Robertson case and a lot of other matters that we're handling. And if you're into social media, you can follow us on Facebook and also on Twitter at Pacific Legal for additional updates and news.
Okay. I appreciate it, Tony. You do an excellent job on the radio. Thank you. Tony Francois with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Go win that case. I want to dig a puddle of water. Have a good day, my friend.
You too, Zip.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I just am absolutely incensed that here is a 78-year-old man in Montana, and these aren't big, huge ponds that you can float a boat on or anything, but we're talking about a man that dug 2 ponds, and now the EPA and everybody else coming down on him. He's been in prison for digging a little pond, and he is 66 miles away from any river. And they came out with a statement that said, Robertson's ponds resulted in the discharge of dredged and fill material into a tributary stream and adjacent wetlands and caused widespread damage to both properties. How do they get away with this? That is absolutely factually untrue. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And right now, I want your call. I want to end the program on a really good note, having some of you folks give me a call today. Woo! You should be inside out of this smoky weather. Wow. Weather forecast brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Oh, Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew. 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Delicious meats. I'm looking at the list of this. Oh, my goodness. We're talking all the pastrami and the salamis and the breakfast sausages and the bratwurst. Oh, it's delicious. Always is, always will be at Scarro's Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's the weather.
If you have upper respiratory issues, you might want to limit your outdoor time as we do have widespread smoke in our area and a air quality alert. Here's your weather for us at the ranch. Yes, it is going to be very, very smoky as there's 57 different wildfires burning in our region between Idaho, Washington, and Montana. So that is where all of the smoke is coming from. Other than that, going to be a little bit on the breezy side for today. Sunny skies if we could actually see beyond that smoke. High of 93 tonight, low of 58. Looks like the smoke is going to be sticking with us as we get through the weekend as well. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 93, overnight low of 60. Looks like smoky and sunny for Friday, high of 89. Looks like 86 for Saturday and 86 for Sunday. That is your weather for us at the ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And again, the weather forecast brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. It's true, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Well, caller, good morning. How are you?
I don't hear you very well, but I think we can talk. I think one of the key things here was, I think he said it was a mining claim, and that will make quite a lot of difference. However, I totally agree with you as far as where it is from the navigable waters and that, because I went through that here just west of Twin Falls many, many years ago. But also, were they also, or can I call them or something to find out if they ever helped the Hammond boys, the dad and son up there in Oregon?
You know, it's very interesting, and go to their website, and there's a young man that basically fields all the questions and then gives them out to the various attorneys that work for the Pacific Legal Foundation. His name is Colin Callahan, and he's an excellent young attorney, and I've worked, and Deanne's worked with him many, many stories on this program. The one thing I want to say to you is, if you remember the Andy Johnson case over at Fort Bridger, Wyoming, all this man did was dig a little farm pond for his livestock and also for the use of the wildlife in the area. And he did go to the state of Wyoming and get the state permits and everything. He thought everything was legal. And then the EPA came in on him and fined him $75,000 a day. That's why when I hear stories about Andy Johnson or this man, Joseph Robertson, digging a little pond on their property, I become incensed, because we are not protected anymore. Private property is not protected anymore. And if they get a chance, the EPA and the government will get you.
I do understand that, because I know what you're talking, this Wyoming case. I followed it very closely. But again, I've got to remind you that if this was mining claims,
yes,
we deal with this almost daily with our claims. And they are really out to get us, because they do not want Americans mining in this country. They have other countries that are mining here. They've given huge, huge grants, too, as far as mining properties. And so it's all politics.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%. And that's why I wanted to get this story on the air, to make sure that everybody's aware how insidious this is against not only the mining industry, but also against the agricultural industry with these farm ponds, etc. Thank you for your call. God bless you.
Totally agree, Zeb. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very nice lady right there, and I thank you. Wheels, I've noticed that we've got some static on some of these phone calls, and I don't know what's causing it. I hope it's not too bad on the air this morning.
No, it's not, actually. You've had a pretty good phone line and everything, and
okay.
I'm going to go ahead and take this call.
All right, buddy, thank you. We've got time for one more quick call, and then I'm going to tell you all about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and the Moo of the Cow. Good morning, you're on the air.
Well, just remember this about the EPA. They were cleaning up a mining site over in Colorado, and they managed to, botch the job to the point where they ran, whatever kind of water you want to call it, settlement water,
right,
down the river, and not only did they kill fish and wildlife and harm the riparian zone that they're so in love with, but they also ran out into people's farm grounds.
That's right.
This was irrigation water, too.
That's right.
And destroyed some of these fields where these farmers were irrigating. And to this day, it's never been resolved, because you can take the EPA to court, But in some cases, unless you go straight to the Supreme Court, it just goes on and on and on and on forever, and they don't care.
That's right.
But you see, you and I have lives that they can destroy, and why they pick and choose to make examples of certain people is beyond me. But to think that these people in the EPA who are environmentalists that are still in there and getting rid of them, evacuating them from the system, is obviously harder than any of us ever thought, because we would have thought they were out of there by now. But look what's still happening.
Amen. Randy, I really appreciate your insight on this. And yes, no one on that river problem was held accountable, because that's the government. Randy, I got to run, buddy. Thank you very, very much. God bless you.
Thanks. That lady that called in,
yes,
I don't know who she is, but she's smart, and I appreciated her comment. I wish she would call in more, because she's very informed.
She's a very, very nice lady. I've known her for almost 40 years, I think it is. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I liked her comments. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Want to remind everybody about the Great Big Fall Tire Sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I mean the best. All 7 locations with the best tire value promise in the industry. Absolutely. You stop in and check out the tires you need for safe driving on your cars, pickups, SUVs. On sale right now for the cars, they've got the Eclipse tires starting at just $63.99. Premium traction, superior ride quality. You get in there and check it out today. Or for your pickup, the Backcountry Touring HT. Check it out. Outstanding ride quality, the ultimate in durability. All of this and more. Brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. It's all there with the best. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lake and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run. Good day to you. Try not to breathe in too much of this smoke. God bless you and your family. And remember, we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06. Ride the horse for 3 hours on Zebeth Ranch, where we always say the way things were are the way things ought to be. Good morning to you. See you tomorrow at 8:06.